Welcome to the Roadmap to Secure Love. In today's episode, Kim and Kyle discuss how childhood fears, like a fear of bees, can shape our emotional reactions in relationships and impact how we connect with our partners. Let's dive in.
Okay, I have a confession to make, Kyle.
Okay.
I'm afraid of bees, wasps. If a fly is by my ear and I don't know it's a fly, that buzzing sound, I'm going to freak out.
Hmm.
Now, I used to freak out so bad that I would scream and run and like headbang
hmm
down the road. Now I'm calmer, okay? But I'm calmer because I figured out why I was so afraid.
Why are we so afraid?
So when I used to go to this camp called Poco Loco, which in Spanish means a little crazy.
hmm
And every Friday we would go to like a forest preserve and we'd eat outside and things like that. And my mom would tell me every Friday, Mom, I love you. I'm okay. It's fine. Okay. So, little side note for mom out there. She would tell me, if you ever get stung by a bee, like get help and always look down on the ground so you don't step on a beehive or anything like this. Because if you get stung, you could be allergic and you could die.
Wow.
Yeah, I could die at
hmm
Poco Loco camp on Fridays. It's like a big deal.
Huge deal.
It's like a huge deal. And so, like, I would see a bee on a flower a mile away and I would run the opposite way. Everybody used to laugh at me
hmm
because I was a freak.
Of course.
I was a total
Terrified.
freak. Yeah. So finally, after years of freaking out, headbanging, screaming, running, I realized, oh my gosh. And people would ask me, well, are you allergic? By the way, they would ask me, are you allergic? And I was like, girl, they can't catch me. I've never been stung because they can't catch me. I mean, that's how fast it was, right?
hmm
And then all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, just because I was told over and over again on Fridays I could die at Boca Loco camp. Whew. Once I figured out where the fear came from, I was able to kind of like work through it.
hmm
And I was also allowed to give myself a lot of self-compassion.
hmm
Instead of feeling shamed that I'm freaking out in front of all these strange people,
hmm
I was able to say, yeah, I'm afraid because I have this mindset that I could be allergic and die. Um, so now I see bees and I'm aware of their presence.
hmm
But I don't freak out.
Yeah.
I even sent Kyle, I think I sent you a picture, maybe. I don't know. I sent somebody a picture and I was like in a chair outside and a bee landed on my chair and I took a picture of it.
And you stayed right there.
Yeah, and it stayed right there and it was like rocking around and I was like, I am not gonna die today.
hmm
So yeah, I'm afraid of bees.
But I think the story about bees is a playful way for us to look at also what we do in our relationships, right? Is we often have pretty intense reactions, right? Maybe when my partner says something, I just shut them out. I stonewall them. I don't want to see them. I get in my car and I drive 50 miles away. So I just don't want to deal with them. Or I get pissed and angry and get louder. Or I tell myself, yeah, here's confirmation. I am a shitty human. I am the worst. And I gotta pull away from my partner. I gotta push them away because I am such a bad person.
Yeah.
All those coping strategies, all those protections, as we might call it from emotionally focused couples therapy, what I see is a lot of clients or even myself, right? When we have those things show up, then it's like, yeah, that's kind of who I am, right? Or that's right, that's my partner's causing me this. The problem is Even when we get regulated, we don't have that curiosity that you talked about with the bee. Where did this come from? Well, it makes perfect sense. If you were told you're going to die, that you'd be so terrified you'd be running 6 miles to get away from a bee, right?
It's true.
Same thing from attachment. If we're shutting out the world, if we're angry, if we're getting louder with our partner, if we're going into shame, at some point in our lives, we learned that strategy. And at some point, it worked. You didn't get stung by a bee
To this day,
to
I
this
have
day.
I have never got stung by a bee. And so there is a primal thing, right? So
Right.
for me, the primal thing was don't die.
Hmm.
Okay. And there's also this primal thing that comes up with us. It's like have value,
Yeah.
lovable.
Hmm.
That's those things because we're hardwired to feel loved and accepted.
Hmm.
It is a threat, a primal threat
Hmm.
if we do not experience those things.
Right. Which is why these reactions can feel so intense, so overwhelming, and so out of balance.
Out of balance. Oh, out of balance. Oh my gosh, I gotta tell you guys a story. I can't believe I'm telling this, but it's so funny. So I was in college. There was this guy that just was like head over heels for me. I did not like him at all, but he was like, I'm gonna marry Kim. And I was like, "Pfft, no way. And so we were driving and we stopped to talk to a friend and I rolled down my window to talk to somebody. And all of a sudden, a bee came straight towards my face. I mean, it was aiming for me, Kyle. You might as well it was destined to get Kim.
Hmm.
I'm in the car. All of a sudden, I go head first, diving into the guy who wants to marry me's lap,
Hmm.
like right in the middle of the lap.
Hmm.
And I look up, he's smiling. He thinks this is great.
Of course.
I'm like, sorry. I will never forget that moment because I was so humiliated.
Hmm.
It was horrible.
Hmm.
He was like all excited,
Hmm.
you know. But what came up for me was a primal moment.
Reaction. Yeah.
I'm gonna die.
Hmm.
So dive. Dive, Kim.
Hmm.
Save yourself,
Hmm.
right? And we do this in relationships.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we're in a mess. And we're like, how did we get here? Well, we got here because we were afraid.
Right. We were afraid that if we lose our partner, if we don't have a sense of value or worth, and that's what gets touched. Sometimes even without us realizing it, that can get touched. Right? Because we are literally hardwired to react sometimes before conscious awareness. Right? That's neuroception, which is if you see a stick on the ground, you jump and then you go, wait, that's a stick. Why'd I jump at a stick? Well, that's because if it was a snake, you would just saved your life. But if you went, huh, is that a stick or a snake? And you stayed there, you got bit, you might be dead. Same thing happens in our relationships. We literally, even before a full second passes, have a story, we have a reaction to something that feels emotionally threatening in our relationship. If our partner doesn't see us as valuable, if our partner feels disappointed, that could feel like a threat in our body. That means we might lose this relationship, or we might be rejected, we might be abandoned, and all of a sudden, even before we're aware of it really happening, we're shutting down. We're storming out the door, or we're getting louder and more critical and providing more of a case for how we're not that type of partner, or we're going, yeah, I am just a shit partner. I am the worst. You should totally divorce me. And all that is because it's touching this primal fear that leaves us dysregulated, that leaves us in a fight or flight or even freeze mode, that gets in the way for us to be curious about why we do what we do.
I think that's huge, is the curiosity piece.
Well,
Because I got over my bee because I was curious why I was that way.
And this is something I see with my clients where they get really stuck when they don't like, and that's what we do in our therapy. We help them organize. Why is that the move your body does, right? Where did you learn that? Well, I learned this because that's what my mom used to do, or that's how I was treated, is I was supposed to self-sacrifice, right? Or I had to get loud to get heard. Well, of course. And so, but this is something that I find a lot of times gets blocked is we have these big reactions when we're dysregulated and we have a primal threat that then we don't come back and go, huh, okay, I'm human. This has to make sense for some reason. Why did I do that? What was at stake for me that I did what I did? Instead, we often go, wow, I'm a crazy person for getting so loud, or wow, I am a piece of garbage and I don't deserve a relationship. And so we don't ever get to a place where we get regulated and go, okay, if my friend was having this experience, how would I talk to them about that? How would I hold them? What would I ask them? What would I say to them? Would I tell them they're a complete jerk for getting so loud? Or would I say, what happened? That's not who you are. What happened in that moment that you got so angry? What happened that you stormed out the door?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'm hearing two things from you, Kyle, which I think is really important. Number one, to have self-compassion, that when we feel threatened in relationships, our biggest thing is to protect ourselves. And sometimes that comes out a little sideways.
Yeah.
Okay. So compassion. And then the second thing, the two C's here is we've got to be compassionate and then we've got to be curious.
Mhm.
Why did I do it this way? What was at stake for me that I felt like it had to be done this way instead of another way?
Right.
So compassionate. Whew, I just had a reaction. I wonder what that's about. Curiosity, the two C's.
Mhm. When what this does is it starts to give us a pathway to understanding ourselves. And when we understand why we might do what we do and what's at stake for us, right? I get critical and angry at you in hopes that you'll change your behavior so that I will feel safer or I'll feel more secure. Now, what we know as couples therapists is that often doesn't create that. But being able to talk to our partner about, hey, I don't feel safe or I don't feel cared for, here's what's going on for me, often does,
Yes.
right? And so being able to be compassionate about ourselves and then curious about why we do what we do can really help us start to pave a new path to do things differently.
Today's episode reminded us that our fears, whether of bees or emotional triggers, often have deep roots. Key takeaways: 1. Understand your triggers. 2. Practice self-compassion. 3. Embrace curiosity. 4. Regulate emotions. And 5. Rewrite your relationship patterns. Follow the roadmap to secure love on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Sign up for the Secure Attachment Path course to learn practical tools for building secure connections. Link in the show notes. Until next time, stay connected and keep listening with love.